I'm Sim. I'm doing my best. I'm old, so I got notes.
Shameful.
I know, and I should have known that. I'm 56 years old. I'm married 30 years. It'll be 30 years next month. I have a 25-year-old son, a 23-year-old daughter. Grew up in a middle class family in northern Ohio. Mom was a school teacher for 30-some years, inner city, first through third grade. She's an unrecovering alcoholic. My dad built fire hose and airplane tires for one of the rubber companies up in Akron. I would consider him a heavy drinker, and being the Italian, big Irish Italian family, being the Italian, I'd call him the instigator as well. But after about 35 years, they ended up getting divorced, and that was when I was away at college. I'm a middle child. If those that know me don't already figure that out, I have an older brother, a younger sister. And so life growing up, for probably the first half of my life, was pretty normal and good. It progressively got worse with my mom's drinking. But ironically enough, that isn't what brought me to AA. That's just a little bit about me, and really through the past almost 4.5, 5 years, it's really helped me learn and discover a lot about why I am who I am. And I think it's directly responsible for a lot of that. So going back to about 2015, our son was between his sophomore, junior year in high school, and good kid, right? So he's a varsity athlete, great grades, hardworking kid. But then that was really where life started to change a lot for us. He started to experiment with alcohol, and at first I didn't think too much of it, because I remember back when I was his age, I knew a lot of what I did. And a lot of the stuff that I did, I look back on as, sort of scary. So at first when that happened, I was like, well, you know what? I'm not too concerned. Mom wasn't horribly concerned, but we had a conversation with him saying, what, this has the potential to impact the rest of your high school career as well as your future. And then it progressively got a little bit worse from there. Then it started to turn out we found alcohol in his room, in his backpack. Got a phone call one weekend from his buddies saying he's passed out at a party. We go pick him up, bring him home, and then it turns into what you might expect, the typical punishments: grounding, take away his phone, take away his driving privileges. Thinking maybe that'll do the trick, right? So then things continue, and this is over a span of the rest of his high school career, back and forth with a lot of this stuff, thinking, you know what? Is this just him being a high school kid, or am I really being delusional, right? And part of it's me wanting to ignore the fact that there's something going on. Part of it goes back to sort of how I was. Part of it's the ego, the pride, how our family was, the external view of this, right? The image of a good family. And I think about the progress with the alcohol. Then it turned into weed. Then it turned into Xanax. Not long after that, we got a phone call from his high school. It says he's intoxicated at a football game. So we go to pick him up from the football game. I can't even get through this part, let alone the rest of it. In the principal's office, and he's vomiting in the wastebasket. So now this exposes us to something that's totally new. And of course, this puts some kinks in the image of our family and of who we are. So I go from horrified to concerned to pissed. Like, how is this happening? What is going on? And the part that became really frustrating about this is, in addition to that, embarrassed, right? So I'm like, well, how is this happening, right? So then that really led to something new as well, as it was the introduction to the Columbus Police. So now he's public intoxication, underage drinking. So now we have lawyers involved. Now we have court costs, court fines. Now we have, is he going to get kicked off the varsity golf team? What's the future going to hold for him, right? And I think back through this, and so when we get into that, of course, even back when we picked him up from the party when he's passed out, led to the same punishments. You know what? Nothing changes, right? And of course, me being the crazy, consummate, raging codependent that I am, I'm like, I can fix this, right? All he has to do is listen to me. I just want him to follow my lead and everything will be fine. And that's when I really started to discover there was something more to it. So anyways, time progresses. We keep trying to work through this. The storm's brewing at home. The anxiety, the stress, the worry. The stuff his sister had to go through and endure. It was rough. And I think back about it these years later, it's still hard to think about. And it's not as much for me anymore, it's the rest of the family and what they had to go through. So Saturday morning, it's probably his senior year. We go to get him out of bed. We're like, where the hell is he? What's he doing? And he's unresponsive. So we take him to the ER. This was probably the most afraid I've ever been in my life. We're in the ER, we don't know what's going on. Doctors are running tests. They think he has epilepsy because he's convulsing. He's having a seizure. I'm holding him so his head doesn't hit the floor and bump into the walls. We go through that, we get a bunch of lab results back, we get the tox screen back. We find marijuana, we find benzodiazepines, we find all kinds of stuff we weren't expecting. Through the process of the rest of the stuff over those several years at home, when the police got involved, in addition to all the other stuff around the punishments, that led to all the court costs and the experience with that, it also led to therapy and therapists. And it led to home therapy, and we had somebody come to the house multiple times a week, and we thought it was making a difference. That was really when we were delusional. So things proceed. He graduates from high school, gets accepted into a D2 college to play golf, doesn't make it through the first year, maybe through the first year. Goes back for a second bite at the apple, doesn't make it that time. So our daughter now is a freshman in college, and she's cheering football right down the road. I'm there, my wife's there, my mom and my brother are with us, watching our daughter cheer. Our son's coming, but he's not there. And it's probably halfway through the second quarter, and I'm starting to worry, starting to get a little anxious. Where is he? My phone rings, and it's our son calling from the ER. Had a car accident. Thankfully, nobody else was injured. Totaled his car, hit a tree because he had another seizure. So we take him to the hospital. He's at the hospital. Take him from the one hospital, take him down to Riverside, run battery test, benzo, Xanax withdrawal. So now we're like, now what the hell do we do? So that led to the following week, get him out of the hospital, an intervention. Guy comes to the house. We've got an intervention now because, of course, I'm a fixer and I don't know what else to do. He then goes from our house outside of Philly to a 90-day intensive rehab facility. Just so happened it was on our daughter's 19th birthday that we shipped him away for rehab. And you know, I think about where I am today and knowing what I know today, how I wouldn't have done so many things I did then, but you do what you have with the tools that you have. So 90-day rehab, intensive rehab, then goes out to California to an in-house living assisted rehab type deal with an open ending to it. Didn't know when he was going to come home. At the same time, that gets us to December 26, 2019. And I'm hopeless, and I'm broken. And I don't know what to do. So again, being the perfectionist I am and the fixer that I am, I go online, I'm like, there's got to be something out there. I don't know what, but there's got to be something. And I started doing some research, and I find this thing called Al-Anon. And I start looking up meetings, and I look up locations, and it just so happened that Thursday, the day after Christmas, I find the Thursday night meeting that we go to. And I think about where I am today, and I think about the higher power side of all of this, In retrospect, that was a sign, because I got in my car and I drove to Westerville, and I get to St. Paul's, and I'm driving around the parking lot, and I can't find the freaking meeting. And I go into the church, and there just so happens to be a woman, Westerville police officer, and I said, hey, there's a meeting going on somewhere. You have any idea? You know what? I don't. I know there is one as well. I don't. I go over to the gym, and there's something going on, and they're rec basketball, and these kids are coming out, and the dad says, I think it's over in that building in the basement. So I make my way over to the building and go down the basement. There are 3 guys in the room. All 3 of them are here tonight. And that was my first meeting. And I think about the impact that made on my life that day, that night. To know that I wasn't alone. To know that there was hope. To know that there was a program that if I was willing to commit to it, could help me. And for a guy that has all the answers, and for a guy that's identity is circled around being the fixer for everybody else, it was really cool to know that as crazy as I was, I'm not the only crazy person out there. So I started going to meetings. I was going to meetings every week. Found a sponsor, and I'm a little bit biased, but he's the best sponsor there is. And I worked the steps, and I entered the program. And it's really something special to be able to see the impact it's had on me. The things I think about, how prior to the program, like, again, emotionally, spiritually broken, being the good Catholic and all the guilt that comes along with that, I come full circle to where, you know what, I was so focused on everybody else, even though I truly believed in my higher power, I don't really know that I had faith in my higher power. And I know that it was very easy for me to spend time working on everybody else's problems and helping everybody else than to address my own. So it really changed my thinking. It changed, who I am as a person. But the things I think about, what the program's taught me, what it's given me, I don't have control over others, what they think, what they do. I don't have to be perfect. It's impossible. I never will be. And that's okay. I don't have to have all the answers. It's okay for me to say no and not explain why. It's given me a peace and a calmness that I never had before. And I think the other part that's probably the most important is it's given me the faith that knowing I have a higher power that has my back. I've said this before in meetings. It's not a matter of if the other shoe's going to drop. It's a matter of when. And that's a fact. And I'm okay with that because I know, at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay. Come full circle now, our son's sober. He's moving forward with his life. I feel incredibly blessed. I also know that whether he is or isn't is out of my control, and I'm okay with that. But I believe that his higher power is waiting for him the same way my higher power is waiting for me. And I just want to say thank you to everybody in this room for the support, the encouragement, the experience, the wisdom to help me be better every day at what I do. And with that, I pass. Thanks, and I'm sure with all my notes, I left a lot of stuff out.
Before you go,